Great.
What is up, everybody? This is Chase, and welcome back to the Wellness Center podcast, where we are destigmatizing mental health one episode at a time. Everyone, I am so grateful that you are tuning in to another phenomenal story of resilience, of lessons, of value, of vulnerability, and all of those great nitty-gritty details that make humanity awesome. So, guys, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you are not a part of the Wellness Center tribe already, guys, I invite you to join us. It's so simple. You can do it one of two ways. Either you can, if you're on YouTube, you can hit the subscribe button. By doing that, not only are you joining the tribe and you're joining the group that's destigmatizing mental health, but you're also going to make the algorithms read and talk more, and you're going to help us get out to more people. So it means the world when you join the Wellness Center tribe. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. If you're on Apple or Spotify, all you have to do is hit that follow button. Guys, it means the world to me. It means the world to my guests. And by doing so, you're going to help other people. So there's only a benefit. So I invite you to join the Wellness Center tribe. Guys, a part of that, I have my goals, right? The podcast is definitely growing and we're doing great. We just hit two goals not too long ago. I had a goal of 200 subscribers on YouTube. We're currently at 225. So we're growing and we're doing great, guys. We have the new goal of 500 subscribers. So please, that just means each one of you has to share it to one person. That's all you have to do. And we'll hit that goal. It's so simple. So guys, please, I invite you, as you're listening to this episode today, if you know somebody that's going to benefit from the conversation me and my guests are going to have, I invite you to share it with them, right? Not only are they going to find value in that, but they're also going to see that you love them, right? You're going to give them those skills and those things to give them hope to cope through the weekend. And that just means the world to me. And guys, my next big goal, right, was 10 5-star reviews on podcasting platforms like Apple and Spotify, and we're currently at 12. So we hit the goal, which is so exciting. Thank you guys so much. New goal is 50 5-star reviews. So please make sure to go and review the podcast. If you loved the episode, leave us a 5-star review and let us know why. It would mean the world to me and my guest. Give my guest a shout out too. You're going to learn about her in just a second. So guys, without further ado, I want to bring on my amazing guest. I've talked enough. It's all about her now. I'm so excited to celebrate her humanity and her resilience. So guys, by way of epic introduction for this lady. So this lady is the creator of the busy busting process. It's designed to help people escape the hamster wheel of the hustle and reclaim happiness, wellness, and peak success. She's armed with insights from the busy reports revealing that 75% of people are trapped in cycles of busyness that sacrifice their self-care and fulfillment. She exposes the hidden costs of hustle culture, where burnout and frustration limit true potential in the workplace. She once wore the busyness like a badge of honor, but now advocates for prioritizing health and meaningful focus. And lastly, she's an inspiring keynote speaker and researcher, challenging society's obsessions with the hustle to unlock real well-being and achievement. And she is an author. She is soon to publish new authors. She is soon to be a TEDx speaker. Guys, there is so much that this lady is doing, and we are getting to meet her today. What an honor. So without further ado, we have the one, the only, the world famous Peggy Sullivan. Peggy, how are you doing today?
Hear the legends old and new. Wisdom flow like rivers true. Share your heart, the stories thrive. In this cast we're all alive.
Thank you for such a kind introduction. I am super psyched to be here today to talk about such a near and dear subject to my heart, and transformation that it has taken me a little bit to go through and to understand and to really step into what I call my personal power through it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think stepping into personal power is the whole goal of this show. I know it's the goal of what you do. And I just think it's awesome that there are people that disrupt like you. And it's just an honor that I get to meet people like you. So thank you. And so I'm curious about where you're from, because so I've got an aunt that's from kind of like the New York Bronx area, and you remind me a lot of her.
Yeah, I'm actually from the other side of the state, upstate New York, But
Okay.
right now I'm here in Palm Beach, and I stay here about 9 months of the year. So
Okay.
Florida's home.
You know what? You are just like her name is Aunt Vita. And she, New York, Manhattan, she was a stockbroker trader. She super hustle bustle, just like you. And she lives in Florida as well now. And she just loves it down there. So that's cool. I love
Gotta love
synchronicities.
the sun shining almost every day.
Yeah. How are you doing down there with all of the storms and the hurricanes and everything?
Yeah, it's really sad and it really
Yeah.
did affect a number of people. So my heart really goes out to them and
Hmm.
anything that I could ever do to help them, my heart is with them. It's a scary situation. In my immediate area, we seem to be doing okay,
Hmm.
not too much damage, but I know there's so many other people in the state that were affected. So let's all just say a prayer for them and hope that they get back to life as normal as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And if there's anyone down there that's affected by these that are listening to this right now, you can reach out to me or Peggy, and we'll do everything we can to give you the resources that you can to continue to thrive. So, Peggy, if you could tell us a little bit more about who you are and kind of what you like to do, some of those hobbies and interests, just so we can kind of get to know you on the surface level a little bit more before we kind of start digging into that deep stuff, that'd be great.
I think my biggest passion is helping other people.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm an author and a public speaker, because I believe when I'm up on stage or writing articles or writing books, I can have the most impact. I'm 65 years old, and most people don't say that with pride. But it's been a journey for me, and I've learned a lot. And I finally, as I said, stepped into my power. But it's more than that. I've stepped into my sweet spot, my happiness. And it took a lot of testing and trial and error and research. So I love helping people when I can get over stress or chronic fatigue or just, feeling like they're in a state of time poverty and don't have time for what's important to them. So I love helping people, but I also love being physical. I love my hot yoga. I love cold plunging. I love the infrareds. Anything healthy, I'm all in. Eating healthy, all of that. And of course, I have an amazing family I love to spend time with.
Ah, it's amazing. And I love that you're kind of into that new holistic sorts of wellness, right? Like I love cold plunges. There's nothing better than going and hopping in a cold river first thing in the morning. My day-to-day business is red light therapy. So I totally get that love for the infrared, the red and infrared. But yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing how you can get up in the morning and feel maybe a little stressed, a little overwhelmed. And wow, if you can sit in the cold plunge for I said 8 minutes, but if you can do that, you can do anything. You can handle anything in your life, and it just makes you feel so incredibly powerful. And then when you slip into the infrared and you just kind of let yourself go, that is just so relaxing, so dreamy. So,
it,
what
it
an amazing combination.
It really is. And, I know that there's some science out there and I don't know what it is. So please, if you know it, I'd love to hear it. But I know that there's a part of your brain that when you subject yourself willingly to really hard situations like cold plunging or hard business things or anything like that, it actually grows an area in your brain that helps you be more resilient.
It actually does. My first book that I wrote was about the neuroscience of happiness.
Oh, okay.
So I learned about a lot about resilience. And the more we do hard things, the more we remind ourselves, hey, I can do hard things. I've done hard things before.
Right.
So yeah, you're spot on with your observation.
Right. There's something there that says, like, I can sit in cold water for 8 minutes. I can have this hard conversation, or I can deal with this hard moment in time, or this setback, or this trial, because I can do anything. So, and I know getting to this point in your life to be able to talk about the neuropsychology of happiness and to find these holistic modalities and do everything that you're doing comes with an amazing story. So, Peggy, I would love to get into our first question. I would love for you to take us back to a young Peggy Sullivan. What was life like for you? What were some of the first times that you struggled with your mental health?
Well, I grew up with a dad who was an immigrant who came over after World War II,
Hmm.
and he was basically on the cycle of eat, work, sleep. So it was ingrained in me that if you want to be successful, you need to work really, really hard. You need to be busy 24/7. So
Hmm.
no other way. So I spent my whole life striving and driving. No matter what I did, I
Hmm.
worked really, really hard at it. People would always tell me, Peggy, you're the hardest worker I know. And, in retrospect, gosh, I wish I spent more time living, worked a little less hard,
Hmm.
because truly less is more. And that's the lesson that I've learned far down. I call myself a busyness addict in
Hmm.
recovery. Busyness is always at my doorstep,
Hmm.
but I've developed a lot of tools. So I really try to have a life that is much more cohesive and balanced and
Hmm.
control those voices in your head, right? I mean,
Yeah.
those voices in your head, they're so powerful. And when we learn how to calm them down and put them in perspective, it just gets a lot easier. And
Yeah.
so that's where I'm at. I think you asked me about, the first time that I had a challenge with mental health. I had challenge throughout most of my childhood. I just
Hmm.
never let myself admit it. It was
Gotcha.
my tiny little secret I kept underneath the covers. I can do it, no problem.
Right.
But on the outside, I was like this really successful kid who was into sports and did all this great stuff. But on the inside, I was exhausted, overwhelmed, dying for a timeout, dying to spend quality time, make quality friends, and,
Hmm.
have deeper meaning in my life.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that very deep level of vulnerability about your experience growing up with your dad. I'm very curious. Was there a lot of quality time with him, or do you not feel like you had a relationship with him growing up?
I didn't growing up, but my mother died when she was really young.
Mm,
And that was my father's wake up call.
yeah,
And from that moment on, we became two peas in a pod, and we spent a tremendous amount of time together.
yeah,
And really, I mean, it was pretty amazing time. I was there on his deathbed. He died at 88. He lived a good 30 years after my mother passed. So there was a lot of quality time.
yeah. That's amazing. I'm grateful you got that quality time. And and I'm curious, do you feel like,
Let's talk, let's talk a little bit about the insight that came with it too,
yeah,
because there's a part of me that was frustrated because I didn't have a dad like other dads. I wasn't going
yeah,
on vacation. I wasn't eating family dinners. I didn't have any of that stuff. But there reached a point where when my father wanted to be everything I wanted, there was a point where I said, the past is the past. Let's grab a slice right here, right now. And had I hang on to any of my frustration or overwhelm as a child, I wouldn't have been able to let that go. So maybe that was forgiveness was something that I really learned about this when my father re-entered my life.
yeah, I can imagine. Do you feel like it was kind of that thought process of like, yeah, I can just let go. I can forgive him fully and embrace what is now, or did it take you some time to learn to forgive him?
I kept on telling myself all we have is the present. All we
Right.
have is right here and now. And why would I sacrifice now for something that happened behind us? He
Mm,
was a different man. He learned, he regretted spending all of his time eat, work, sleep. And so I just wanted to get to know my dad, and that's
yeah.
exactly what we did. We went on these amazing cruises together, and
Hmm.
we spent all this quality time together, and I didn't regret one moment of it. It was very joyful.
I can empathize with you there, right? My dad was a busybody and has been a busybody his whole life. And so I had a little sister who passed away by suicide when she was 16. It was about 10 years ago. But thank you. After she passed away, my dad got even busier. And it was his way to cope, right? And I can totally appreciate it. And right now, he's getting to that point in life where he's starting to slow down and really focus on building relationships. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I don't care about the past. It doesn't matter what, like you said, what is now. And it's amazing to be able to have those relationships. Those are more important than any job, any dollar amount, any status. And the forgiveness part is huge too. It is really important that you forgive
Yeah.
them.
What we learn from a good failure is sometimes even more important than anything else, right? Because
Mhm.
then we learn how to do it differently.
Yeah. I'm really curious about that. One thing that's been coming into my life a lot is perspective. Right.
Excuse me.
No, you're fine. How to have a good perspective. So I'm curious, in those moments when people fail, as an expert right now, what do you feel is a healthy perspective, or how can people learn to develop a healthy perspective of failure?
Yeah, I've got a great example that happened just yesterday.
Perfect.
You announced that I have a TED Talk coming up. So my nerves has been getting a little bit going. And so yesterday I went to my yoga class per usual, did my sauna, everything. And then I got back in the car to come back home and to make it to my meetings and to do a little bit of practicing. And I remember putting my phone on top of the hood of the car, and then I drove away, and then I heard this smack. And it didn't even occur to me that it was my phone that was smacking in the street
Oh
until a
no.
couple of streets later when I wanted to call my husband and tell him, honey, I'm on my way home. And I
Oh
realized I
no.
didn't have my phone. And then I thought to myself, okay, you had your phone this morning. You're going to find your phone. So, and it's only a phone, it's not all that important. But then the other thing was like, what got you here?
Hmm.
And for me, it was overthinking, over processing. Instead of looking at this TED Talk as an opportunity to share my thought leadership and what I've learned, I was looking at it at a performance, and I've got to perform. And that was just the wrong attitude. So it was
Hmm.
able to kind of recalibrate.
That's cool. That's really cool that you were able to get deep within yourself and ask those questions. And I'm curious here. I want to go a little bit more into your expertise with this, right? So I think that's
I'm so sorry.
no, you're totally fine. If you need to take a drink of water, please feel free to do so. Um,
I'm going to.
yeah, no, this is a very candid podcast. I totally can appreciate humanity. Um, but with so let's say like there's a situation that stereotypically seems to be more extreme. Like, for example, let's say a divorce happens in someone's life, or a loss of a loved one, or a loss of a job, right? How can people practice healthy perspective in some of those more extreme situations?
Yeah, unfortunately, I experienced that one. My
Mm.
husband kind of walked out on me and my child
Oh
when he
no.
was young. And at first, I didn't see that as an opportunity. I was just freaking out. How's life going to go on? And why didn't I see this coming? And
Yeah.
just beating myself up. And then I started to realize this is such an amazing opportunity to reinvent myself. This is
Mm.
such an amazing opportunity for me to spend quality time with my son, this one on one time. It was just to re enter the dating world, all these opportunities. So I really forced myself to look at what the opportunities could come out of this and start to see them
Mhm.
instead of looking at, all the things that I left behind or what did I do to make this happen. It was more like, okay, well, it takes two to make a marriage. And so I'm going to learn from this, and I'm just going to become healthier and better and have better relationships and focus more on them. And it just reminded me of what was important. So my advice to people is to look at the opportunity in anything that feels like a challenge or feels harder, or even more importantly, isn't what you planned. I didn't plan this morning to have to go out and get a new phone because I put my phone on top of my car and totally destroyed it.
Right.
But hey, it's what I had to do. And so, okay, lucky me for being able to afford to replace it. And
Yeah.
lucky me that I was able to get a new one, within a day. So for me, I think there's just the glass is always half full. Always, always, always.
Yeah, I love that. And there's something that you said that was really cool that I really want to point out here is that you asked the question, well, what opportunities now, right? Like when he did that walk out, which I'm really sorry to hear about that, by the way. What opportunities now do I get? Right. And then you started looking for those opportunities. So I think what you told me there and what I think people are hearing is by asking the right questions in the right way, that changes perspective. Right. It's all about
Yeah,
what you
and
look
things
for.
aren't always as dark as maybe we first think they might be.
Hmm.
Sometimes we just need to chew on something and to sit into it and to feel it to see the opportunities. Do you think day one I saw the opportunities when my husband left? No, not at all.
No.
That was when I had a bottle of wine one night, and why is
Right.
me and how did this happen and all of that. And it took a little bit of perspective, but that's when I really got very focused on understanding my own mental health and
Hmm.
knowing I am in control. These voices in my head, turn them off, shut them down. They're your voices. You're giving them permission. Stop. What if you just started to be your own best friend? What if I said to myself in my head what I say to other people without even thinking about it, how I
Hmm.
treat them kindly? What if I started to to treat myself so kindly that it inspired me to do bigger and better things, and it gave me confidence, and that's kind of where I'm at in my life is, I'm not going to be that person that's beating myself up. Life has enough challenges. I'm going to be cheering myself on and kind of always looking for an opportunity.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And that is, guys, for those listening, if you go listen to that like 5 or 6 more times, right? Rewind it back and listen to what Peggy just said, because that is so true. Kind of the joke I always tell people is that if you talked to other people the way you talk to yourself, you'd probably get in a lot more fights, right? There'd be a couple of knockdown, drag out fights. And so I love that you had that change in your perspective of I'm just going to be kind. So I'm curious, and this is kind of going, and we've kind of talked about this extreme trial, right? This walkout that you've had to go through, which is my second question. So I just want to formally bring that in, right? So guys, she's been talking about her heroine's journey, right? This extreme moment, this pivotal trial that she had to undergo that helped her ultimately realize that there was better out there for her. And she had to discover that. So, and I'm curious because I know you're the busyness expert. You got into the hustle mindset, right? I'm curious what that hustle mindset was for you, what careers you were doing, and at what point did you realize with that hustle mindset that you were sacrificing the things you didn't want to sacrifice anymore, right? What was that breaking point for you?
Yeah, and let me be clear. I believe that when we work with intention and when we spend time on what's important, we can be very successful professionally and personally.
Hmm.
It's the fact that we all tend to spend too much time on low value activities. They suck us up. I call them busy traps. And
Hmm.
the TEDx speech that I'm going to do shares a story about a friend of mine, Nancy. And she was in a high powered career. She was an executive at the bank, traveled the world, just this amazing job. But she was always stressed and overwhelmed. And one day her daughter asked her, Mommy, coach my soccer team. And she thought to herself, I can't do that. I don't have time. There's no way I can make time to do that. Not one more thing in my calendar.
Hmm.
And then she started to realize this is a chance of a lifetime to bond with my daughter. I don't want to say no. I'm going to say yes. And that's when she kind of used, well, she didn't kind of, she used the power of subtraction to eliminate the things that weren't important. She kind of took a look at how much time she was spending in the email rabbit hole that ding, 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 you've got mail. Instead of like feeling so obliged to look at it every time a sound went off, she shut it off and decided, no, I'll look at it twice a day. Nothing's that important. And she did the same with her meetings. And so she got very intentional. She was going to coach, she was going to have fun, she was going to spend this time. But a funny thing happened along the way. Her performance at work really, really elevated. And so did her team performance, and so did her team's engagement. So I think that is just a huge lesson that, we need to be smart and wise, and that busy, exhausted, crash and burn isn't the best way. I mean, we stymie our creativity when we multitask. It actually takes us 2.5 times longer, and our work has 3 times as many mistakes.
Hmm.
The stats, if you look at the stats on busyness, it's self-sabotage. We really do this to ourselves. And so when we get much more mindful of how we spend our time, that's when we can really step into our power. It's not about time management, but something that I call values management.
That's cool. I love that. And you're right. It's so important to learn how to leverage your time, value your time. I'm curious about your specific experience, your crash and burn. Would you be willing to share with us that?
I actually had multiple, but I think the biggest thing that was an aha moment was when I came home from work. I was vice president at Blue Cross Blue Shield, heading up a huge marketing communications department. I was a single mom. I had was just separated. There was a lot going on in my life that I was juggling. And I
Hmm.
came home from work and I was exhausted and I was ravenous and I hadn't gone grocery shopping. And so I scoured the kitchen for anything I could to eat,
Hmm.
and I found this bag of stale pistachio nuts, but I was so grateful just to find something to eat. I chopped them down, and then my cat, my fur baby Dazzle, he starts scratching up my legs, basically saying, "Mommy, I haven't eaten in 10 hours either. Would you feed me, please?"
Hmm.
So I threw some kibbles into his dish and I fell asleep on the couch. And I woke up a couple of hours later to this gagging noise, and I look up and it was my cat throwing up pistachio nuts. And I looked down and I saw kibbles in my hand. And I had just eaten cat food for dinner and didn't even realize it. And that caused me to pause. And then I
Yeah.
started to think about, okay, I had a stress related heart attack in my 40s. My husband left me. See this pattern going on here, Peggy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of crazy that it was the eating cat food for dinner that just kind of triggered everything, but it just made me start to see a pattern, and to get very focused on that. And my journey really didn't stop there.
Yeah.
That was just really the beginning of the journey, because then I got very excited about doing some market research and better understanding busyness as a problem
Hmm.
and what motivates it and why we're busy and what is the real information about it. And
Hmm.
that was really insightful, because what I learned is busyness rarely guarantees success.
Interesting. That is really interesting. So I would say what percentage of busyness actually guarantees success?
Oh, I don't think I could answer that question.
Okay.
I just try to be very intentional with what I do, to really understand what my priorities are. And my word this year is doable, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we all we've all set these monster goals for ourselves and we stretch and we stretch and we stretch, but what if we just do a couple of things really, really well?
Yeah.
And so I've been focusing on doing that, just focusing in on what's most important and not letting all these distractions get in my way.
I really,
I'm looking over at the door and my husband, he went out and he picked up a new phone for me. So I'm like, shiny new toy, isn't that great? But you know what? I'm not going to pick up my shiny new toy at all today. I have more
Gotcha.
important things to do.
That's cool. I really like that. That sounds like a skill that you've definitely had to develop over time, right? This muscle of sorts. So I'm curious, again, this next question, right? What are some of the skills that you developed and how they evolved over time is kind of the formal question. So what I'm curious about is for these people that have a million things going on, and I am one of them, to be honest with you, right? I do the podcast. I've got my brick and mortar business. I am getting ready to work into law enforcement. I'm writing a book. I just published a book, right? So I do way more than I should. I'm always super busy, and I have a little like appliance flipping business I do as well. What are some of the early skills that people like me can develop to help learn to leverage their time more effectively?
Yeah. I actually put together what I call the busy busting framework. And
Yeah.
I believe that there's three steps and I believe that every step takes you one micro step further towards your end goal. And when you kind of complement them all together, that it really works out well.
Okay. And what are those three steps?
The first one is subtraction. It's
Okay.
about eliminating low value activities, not getting stuck in busy traps and things that aren't important.
Okay.
The second one is what I call mojo making. I told you I wrote my first book about the neuroscience of happiness, but happiness is a superpower. When we are happy, we get neurotransmitters that give us more energy, more focus. We fight off chronic disease, like just all these amazing good things. So, step two is what I call mojo making, and
Hmm.
it's about creating happiness rituals, little things on demand that make you happy. For me, it's like maybe petting my cat, taking a break in the middle of the day and listening to him purr, or maybe eating a couple of pieces of dark chocolate and closing my eyes and pushing that reset button, or going for a walk, just little things that don't take a lot of energy or resource
Okay. Love that. So mojo making, it's having
is
those
number
resets.
two.
Number two. Okay.
And then, right. And then three is what I call values management. It's called values vibing, and it's understanding what's important to you in terms of your values, and then using that as a filter for your decisions and your actions. It's so
Hmm.
easy to get so tempted with, the production of getting something done and to forget about human connection, to forget about the things that are really important to us. And so for me, I'm always like, okay, well, what are my values? And I know what my four values are. So if an activity doesn't align with those four values, it doesn't get into my schedule. I actually did some market research on what four values lead to quality of life, and there's no rocket scientists, to this whole thing. I think they're things that are pretty natural and normal, but human connection is one of them, right? We
Hmm.
need to connect with other human beings,
Absolutely.
energy and managing our energy. So energy management is number two. Authenticity is number three, because when I think about authenticity, not just as stepping into your own truth, but letting other people have their own truth and accepting people that are different and
Yeah.
a little more diverse than you. And then the fourth value that I really live by is growth. And I got that from my dad. We talked about my
Yeah.
dad,
We
where
did.
he used to say, Toots, a day without learning something new is a lost opportunity. And learning is so much fun.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And so I'm curious about the second step, or the four values. The second value of energy, is that just making sure you get enough rest, you're taking the vitamins and nutrients so you have energy, or is that having the glasses half full, creating an environment of high energy?
Well, I think we take from it what we need from it, right?
Okay.
I mean, there are times where energy means, Peggy, you're not getting a good night's sleep, or you need to eat a couple of solid meals. And then there are other times where I'm like, okay, kiddo, your mindset isn't as positive as I would like it to be. Let's work on that. So I think energy is multifaceted. It's spiritual energy. There's lots of different parts. But the one thing that I love to tell people is that I really believe that there are three types of people in the world:
Hmm.
mojo makers, middle roaders, and energy zappers.
Hmm.
And when you're a mojo maker, you can walk into a room and light it up, and other people can feed off you and you can make things happen.
Right.
You know, we need the middle roaders because they see things black and they see things white, and it's just very with the gloom and doomers, I mean, for me, that pulls us down. And so, my goal is always to never be a gloom and doomer. I can't always be a mojo maker.
Right.
Sometimes I'm a middle roader, but I never a gloom and doomer.
Love it. I absolutely love it. And that's so cool. Peggy, thank you for sharing your life and some of your lessons and your teachings. That's so cool. I love that you found so much resilience and you've thrived so much. Looking back at your life and all of the things you had to experience, right? The hard parts, the good parts, all the things. What can you appreciate about your experience up to this point in your life?
I can do hard things, and it always works out. We always feel like it's not going to work out, but it always works out the way it's supposed to. And so we've got to sometimes let nature take its course and let things happen to us. We love to be in control, but we can't always be in control. So we need to be accepting of what's going on around us.
No, I love that. I use a term to describe that as it's rigorous acceptance. All things are as they should be because they are. Right. And when you can learn to release control and accept what is, it creates so much room for beauty. And I love that. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So Peggy, my last big question for you. So for those people just getting into the realm of mental health, for those people experiencing that crashing, that burnout, or the realization that life needs to be better, right? They need to empty the cup. They need whatever that term is, right? But they're coming and they're looking for help and they stumble upon this podcast. What advice do you have for those people specifically?
I would say wake up every day saying, I am enough, I have enough, and I got this.
I love
Because
that.
then you can do anything, anything. Believe in yourself.
That's amazing. And it's true. So for those listening, you are enough, you have enough, and you get to do great things. Awesome. Well, Peggy, thank you so much for answering my 5 questions and learning about you and some of your lessons and all of those great parts about you. I love celebrating humanity, and I'm so grateful that I got to celebrate yours today. So, where can people find you if they're looking to ask you questions, get your books? What are some of where can people find you?
My book is Beyond Busyness, and it's available on Amazon.com, or alternatively, they can go to my website, PeggySullivanSpeaker.com.
Okay, awesome. And then you've got a new book coming out in January, right?
Yeah,
Let's hear about
yeah,
this one. Let's hear
yeah.
about this book.
Yeah, it's called Beyond Busy: How to Do More with Less. So for me, it's all about the market research and my coming into the fact that I was a busyness addict. There's a lot of funny, fun stories about stupid little things I did because of my busyness, or stories about other things. And there's also a lot of, okay, here's what you need to do. So it really sheds light on the problem of busyness as an addiction and what it costs us. But it also, most of the book is spent on the solution, the three-step busy busting process that I talked to you about. So, if you want to get off the hamster wheel and step into your power, this is a great book that will give you actionable tools on how to do it.
That's amazing. So guys, that's coming out in January. So definitely be on the look for that. The link to her website and her current book are going to be in the description. So please make sure to go down in the description and check that out and to follow Peggy and to buy her book. Because obviously, as you can tell from this episode, she's a phenomenal person doing phenomenal things. And obviously that book is going to be phenomenal. So Peggy, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the one cool thing about the book is I sent a pre-read copy to Mel Robbins, and she said, "Thank you. I was a busyness addict and didn't even realize it. I wish I had this aha moment earlier in life." So that's kind of cool.
That is super cool. And what a compliment that Mel Robbins was willing to compliment your book, right? Always a big thing there. So cool. So yeah, Peggy, one more time, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your humanity. It's been awesome. And for those listening to the show up to this point, I am so grateful for you. Peggy is so grateful for you for tuning in and listening to another amazing story. Guys, at this point, if you're not a part of the Wellness Center tribe, please make sure to like and subscribe, right? Follow us on YouTube, follow us on Apple and Spotify, whatever platforms you choose to listen to your podcasts on, we are there for you. Guys, again, thank you for tuning in. It means the absolute world to me. Just know that I'm always looking for more guests to come on the show. My slogan for you is that there is no story too big and no name too small. If you have a story, I want to share it all. You can contact me at chase@thewellnesscenter.life. Again, that's chase@thewellnesscenter.life. If you want to know more about what I do on my day-to-day basis, please visit www.thewellnesscenter.life, where red light therapy can rejuvenate every single cell in your body, one session at a time. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace out.
I found my light so true. Every scar became a story I knew.